Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mike with Fowler Family Farm. Today's video is a little bit different than what I've done in the past. I'm still going to talk about my goats like I've done in the past, but the type of video, it's a little different. It's a collaboration video with two other channels. The first channel is Bodark Kiko Goats, and that's with Josh. He does a great job of raising his goats. He has registered goats. I've been to his farm 3 different times now. This last time I went to pick up our newest livestock guardian dog, Yelena, and I've picked up both of my bucks from his farm. So both of my bucks came from Bodark Kiko's. That's Chip and Megatron. The second channel that we're collaborating with in this video is Addison Ranch. Addison Ranch, I found them, actually they found me first. They started corresponding with me. And Brett and Lisa are from my wife's original, well actually just Brett, is from the same area my wife grew up in. So kind of funny. They saw a little short that we posted on a restaurant, and Brett grew up going into that same restaurant just like my wife did. He's a little further south than us here in Oklahoma. Brett and Lisa are great people. I've talked to them several times. I have not been to Addison Ranch yet. Look forward to going to see their place one of these days. So just to let you know what my video is about is, so you think you want goats. I'm going to talk about a few things that you need to know before you just go and buy your first set of goats or your first goats. And then Josh over at Bodark Kiko's, he's going to talk about what you need to do once your goats kid and have babies. How to take care of those babies, how to medicate them, things like that. And then Brett over at Addison Ranch is going to talk about how to secure your goats with the proper fencing. He's got a very large ranch out there, and he's got several different types of fence that you can go over and check his video out. He'll do a really good job on explaining what type of fence, where you should probably put your fence, things like that. I think you'll enjoy both of these channels. I enjoy both of them. They're two of the channels that I watched the most here recently. There will be a link for both channels down in the description, so just hit that description arrow down and you'll see their channels linked there in the description. Hey, and if you guys did just come over from the other two channels, either Bodark Kiko Goats or Addison Ranch, hopefully you guys enjoy our channel. Please hit that subscribe button, follow along, and see what we're doing over here at the Fowler Family Farm. So let's get right to my video. Mine is, so you think you want goats? That's how I started. I thought, hey, I want some goats. I started with chickens, just like most people. Most people who buy their own property get, you know, more than a backyard. Some people can do it in their own backyard. I couldn't where I was at. You couldn't have goats there. You couldn't even have chickens. My first place I was able to have chickens and goats was 1.5 acres. I started with chickens. That led into, yeah, I think I want goats. Let's try goats. That's obviously your next step past chickens. A lot of people start with chickens. I did. I wanted to go more. I got goats. Now I got cows as well. So I had that 1.5 acres for about a year, and then I moved to this 30 acres that we're on now. And I obviously needed some help taking care of the land, getting clear, keeping the pastures clear, keeping the brush clear, things like that. So I went straight to goats to help clear the brush, and then I also went to cows to clear the pastures. This video is not about cows though, so let's just stay with goats. The first thing that you need to know about goats, I think the most important thing that you need to know about goats is they're herd animals. You don't want just one goat. You definitely want 2 or more. I would say start with 3 to 4 goats if you're first getting into goats. Start small until you know what you really want, until you know how you're really going to take care of these animals. So goats are very social. They like to be around each other. They like to play around with each other, like to headbutt each other. That's normal for goats. That's just what they do. So when you go purchase your first goats, make sure you get 2 or more. That's pretty important. The second most important thing I think, and this can go in any order for a bunch of different people, but for me, the second most important thing I think is know what type of goat you want. Know where you want to go with this goat, with your goat business, or with your goats in general. Know what you want for that goat. Know their purpose. Is their purpose going to be to produce milk? Is it going to be to produce meat? Are you going to clear your brush with these goats so it doesn't matter if they're meat or milk goats? Know if you want registered versus commercial. That's pretty important. The price is different right there. Registered goats cost more, but they bring more. Commercial goats cost less, but you won't get as much for them. So just know the purpose of the goat that you want to bring to your property. Know what it's for. The third thing that I think is probably, now this is where the first two things I think are pretty important. And everything else is important, but you can go in any order after this. The third thing for me would be what I call your like your enclosures. So I'm going to include fence, your like this lean-to I'm in right now, your water source, your feed source, stuff like that. Things that you need to keep the goats where they're at, basically, your enclosures. Make sure you have the proper fencing. A cow fence will not work. Barbed wire fence will not hold a goat in. So make sure it's some type of fence that the goats can't get their head stuck in and that they can't pull their head back through because of the horns. Stuff like that. Make sure it's like a 4x4 square or smaller if you can. And make sure you have the proper gates on your fencing. If you don't have the gates that can hold a goat in, that's not going to do you any good either. Make sure your goats always have a source of water. Goats will drink a lot of water in the summertime for sure. The wintertime they do slow down a little bit on water, but they still need it, of course. Make sure you have the proper type of feed source. Goats love brush. They don't prefer grass, but they will eat grass. They don't prefer it. They prefer brush. In the wintertime, you may have to outsource some hay. So make sure you have a way to get hay. Or grain. Make sure you have a way to get grain. Grain's important right before kidding season. So make sure you have that grain ready to go during kidding season. So make sure your hay feeders for your goats is good enough that they can't get on top of. You don't want your goats to get on top of that hay because they will pee on it and they won't eat it after that. That's just how goats are. Once it hits the ground, goats won't eat it. The fourth thing on my list that's important before you go get your first herd of goats is make sure you have a way to protect those goats other than your enclosures. So make sure you have like a livestock guardian dog. Some people even use donkeys. Donkeys will protect your goats, but donkeys don't like goats either a lot of the time. I prefer livestock guardian dogs. I have 3 on the property, and they do a great job of keeping everything at bay. The main things you have to worry about, like where I'm at in Oklahoma, is really you have to worry about your kids. Your adult goats, your big goats, they're not necessarily going to get attacked too much. If you don't have any protection around them or enclosures, coyotes will get them for sure. But those baby goats can get taken from just about anything. Bobcats can take them. I mean, if it's small enough, an owl could probably take it. So make sure your goats are protected. The fifth thing that I think you need to be aware of before you go buy your goats is the bucks. They can be aggressive, and they can be buttheads. They will be aggressive at times. One of the goats I have, his name's Chip. He was a bottle baby. He's a very friendly buck. He's one of my friendliest goats on the farm for sure. I don't have any issues with him ever being aggressive. Megatron, the other buck, now both my bucks are young. Now Megatron, he's not aggressive yet, but he doesn't like us either. He tries to stay away from us, which is fine. That's what you want. I mean, my bucks stay in the buck pen unless it's kidding season. So they're both over there together right now in the buck pen. They play around with each other, headbutt each other. But just be cautious when you're in there. Just be cautious with the bucks. Another thing about bucks is you may not need a buck on your farm. You may not want kids. You may want only a herd of does or a herd of wethers even. And a wether is a buck that's been castrated, and those make great pets. They're very tame, and they're usually pretty friendly. But if you only have does or wethers, no bucks on your farm, it's pretty easy. So we just talked about bucks. Now let's talk a little bit about does. Do you want does to give you kids every year? Does can produce 1 to 3 to 4 babies per year. Typically you'll get twins. It's very common to get twins out of goats. But is that what you want? Do you want babies, or do you just want a herd of goats to clear your brush? And that's the only purpose. So know your purpose with these goats, and if you want does to have kids, know that you're going to have to take care of those kids at times too. The type of goats I have is Kiko goats. I don't really have to take care of these kids too much, and these mothers do a pretty good job of taking care of the goats themselves. So you don't have to worry too much about raising that baby goat. The mom itself will raise the goats. So we just mentioned kidding season, and that's what Josh is video is going to be about over at Bodart Kiko's. Kidding season is a very fun time of the year for us. We love kidding season. We love having babies on the ground out here. People actually come out to the farm just so they can see the baby goats because they're so enjoyable to watch and just to play around with. Okay, so those are the things I've listed on my actual list to talk about. Some of the other things I want to talk about is oh, here comes Jenny. She wants to come say hi. Hi, girl. Yeah, I'm doing a video. Oh, Jenny. She's a good livestock guardian dog. One of the things I do want to talk about, like, some of this I know by experience. No, Jenny, don't. Hey. Some of this I know by experience because I've brought one goat home at my very first time I got goats. I brought one goat home. It doesn't work. They will escape and they will try to go find their friends. That goat was on our farm for less than 2 hours. That was my mistake. The person I got the goat from said you want more than one. He told me that. I just decided to get one. Didn't work out. So that goat split. I think he's at the neighbors. So they have goats, but they're down the street quite a ways. So that I do know that experience. That by experience, one goat will not work. Livestock guardian dogs, I do know by experience, do protect your herd of goats. They will bark all night long to protect your goats.
Good job, Jenny. Good girl.
Luckily, our house is down the way a little bit and we don't hear her barking all night. But if you go out at midnight, I promise you, your livestock guardian dog's somewhere around the fence barking at something, telling everything to stay away. And just her scent and her bark keeps everything away for the most part. You really won't have much of a problem if you have livestock guardian dogs. Yep. When I talked about bucks being aggressive, I had a buck, my first buck that I had to get all my does pregnant. He was a very aggressive buck. I kept him for 2 seasons, got rid of him. He was aggressive. I like to be in here with my goats, so I don't like an aggressive buck. If you're not going to be in your pen with your goats all the time, an aggressive buck's not a problem. You won't have an issue with that. I like to be in here with the goats a lot. I like to feed them by hand, and an aggressive buck just doesn't work out. So I know that by experience. 2 of the things I want to talk about now, after the tips I've just listed for you, the 2 things I want to talk about before we get off this video are: do some research on your own and figure out if goats is the right animal for you. Probably will be. Goats are pretty simple animals to take care of, pretty easy, and they're very enjoyable. But before you get invested in it and before you get involved in goats, go do your own research and figure some things out first. Don't just take my word for it. And remember, just to start small. You don't need 100 goats to start with. Start small. If you have a small property, start small and figure out what your property will provide for. There's no reason for you to start with 100 goats. Start with 4 to 6 goats and you'll be very happy. Huh, Jeannie? Huh, girl? You're happy, huh? Yep. Okay, y'all, that's a few of the things that I think you would need to know before you get involved in goats. Just remember to do your own research and start small, and you'll figure things out. It'll be pretty easy. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Remember to go check out the other 2 channels, Bodart Kiko Goats and Addison Ranch. I'll leave a link in the description for both of those channels. Remember, if you're new to our channel, please go down and hit that subscribe button for us. Hit the like button, leave us a comment, and ring that notification bell. We'll see you guys on the next video. Remember, do the good.